email the Motts or go to their sound off page at themotts.ca.
No, the fact is, now this is a real reason why I don't prepare my own eggs, because I've yet to master not breaking the yolk. I'll make 3 eggs, 2 of them I'll break the yolk. And of course the whole thing, I have poached eggs and toast, just kind of ruins the whole thing because you don't get the dip because the yolk's so...
I know. If that were your only problem in life, think about that, eh?
Yeah, but you're very good at that.
I know.
That's why I wait for you to
That
prepare
gets you
my
nowhere.
eggs.
That gets you nowhere. Flattering my cooking gets you absolutely nowhere. I know exactly what you're doing. You just don't want to do it.
That's how do you prefer your eggs? Everybody does have a preference. Scrambled, not bad.
We'll get back to
sunny
the
side
egg
up,
discussion a little bit later on. You would think a gold, a silver, or bronze from the Olympics could translate into some green, wouldn't you? And it does.
Well, in most places it does.
A lot of athletes, yes. It doesn't for Canadian athletes, though. That seems to be the problem. There are a few. You know, you can look at a few athletes who have been on some TV commercials and on the front of cereal boxes and so on. But for the most part, it doesn't happen. Well, Cary Kaplan is the president of Cosmos Sports, which is a sports marketing company in Mississauga. And Cary is joining us now. Hello there.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say before you say that, over medium is how I prefer my eggs.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Over
But
medium?
nobody can do it properly.
Yeah, see, with over medium, you can still dip, can't you?
You can dip a bit,
Yeah.
but it's got to be the white has to be hard. It's a very tricky endeavor.
And
See, mine are poached. I mean, I just love it, then it soaks into the toast. And
Okay, and you've mastered all this, right, Cary? So you can actually do it.
I can, but most you would think that at restaurants that's like the test to me of a good greasy spoon. Can
is
they
true.
make over medium eggs?
Yeah, you're right. Now listen, can you make that gold, silver, or bronze medal turn into some nice cold hard cash for an athlete?
It's very hard. I mean, the sad news is, and I think everybody gets so excited, and the Olympics are so amazing, and I feel bad sort of answering the question because you'd like it to be rewarding, but history suggests that, and Vancouver Olympics is a good example, that almost no Canadian athletes will get any significant endorsements as a result. People forget about the Olympics when it's over. It drops off a cliff very quickly.
why is that?
Well, because the Olympics are interesting. You know, people watch gymnastics and trampoline and everything else for a 2-week period, but if you put a diving event on or a wrestling event on television, first of all, the media won't cover it, and second of all, that's all in part because fans aren't interested in it. And then as a result, corporate sponsors look at it the same way and say if there's somebody that won a medal in trampoline or luge in the Winter Olympics, that's not going to sustain for my brand.
Yeah, we only care about these sports once every 4 years. That's it.
That's right.
I don't think it matters if we care about the sport or not. We were introduced to these people. Christine Sinclair should definitely be able to make some money. Someone should be repping her and say, look, we know her name. The fact that we don't see her playing soccer at the moment, or the fact that we don't see someone bouncing on the trampoline, we know the individuals. If we see them and we see the medal around their neck and they're repping for that company, I think you can still parlay that as a spokesperson, don't you?
Well, Christine Sinclair is a good point. There may be one exception this year at the Canadian Olympics. It might be her. She may be Donovan Bailey and Ben Johnson before all the scandals were they got a lot of money from sponsorship, but her teammates won't. And soccer has a better chance because there is a Women's World Cup coming in 3 years, and it's to Canada, and it's a team sport. But on trampoline and diving and bronze medalists in swimming and Adam Van Couverden, and it's not gonna. It won't. It doesn't sustain. People don't focus on those athletes in 2, 3, 5, 6, 9 months, and where they do on a hockey player or basketball.
Well, never mind 9 months. How about today? Just part of the program said to Carol, what was the name of that young female athlete who won the trampoline, who won the gold in the trampoline? She couldn't name her.
Oh, well, fine. But that
But
doesn't mean
think
anything.
think about Vancouver. Canada won 14 gold medals in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Almost nobody can name any of them.
But if I
besides the
saw their
hockey team.
picture, okay, but if I saw their pictures and they had a medal around their neck, I would remember who they were.
It's true, but if you're Gillette, who has
Yeah.
Roger Federer and Derek Jeter and those athletes, people remember those people all the time, every day. They don't need the. Why should a company doesn't want to work harder to help identify the individual with? It's sad, but companies don't have hearts. They're not passionate. They're looking at return on investment, and if
Yeah,
it works
yeah.
together. Like Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt are the two athletes that will get millions and millions of dollars in endorsements
Right.
because they transcend the sports. People
Yeah.
know those names and faces,
And they're
there's,
characters.
But it's and Christine Sinclair's got that chance, but not the rest of her, not the other hundreds of Canadian athletes. And in fact, it causes a lot of anxiety and depression and things for a lot of athletes after, because they're so famous and popular and for a short period of time, but it drops off, and there's no and in most cases there's no money with it. So now they have to go back and train and compete without any financial compensation. It's like I said, it's sad. But this story that you're talking to me about now, only no one's going to ask me again for 2 years, and that's the sad reality that it's.
And when you talk about the Vancouver Games, what is our biggest memory of the Vancouver Games? The hockey, Sidney
goal,
Crosby
right,
scoring the
the
goal.
Yeah, and people remember also Alex Bilodeau, who won the first medal and stuff, if you have a second name, but not the 12 in between. Like,
No,
and those are 14 golds. Like, this
Right.
time is one gold medal.
And
So
that was
just-
Rosie McLennan, by the way, in trampoline.
Yeah, she looked it up.
Right, and that's a great story. She won the one. It's a great story. And I hope, by the way, that someone does take a chance and represent her. But it's.
Would you?
I mean, in theory, might try. I mean, I like the concept, but I know that the next part's really hard. So I know going to would I potentially work with her? Sure, but. Bank of Montreal and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Procter and Gamble and those companies, the second step's really hard. Knowing a lot of those, key decision makers at a lot of those
Yeah.
companies.
Do you
I'm
represent?
not the hard part.
Yeah.
Getting represented. I mean, that's fine, and it helps to get someone who's professional to help. But convincing a company to write a check, they're historically very nervous because they think that the athletes, it's the 15 minutes of fame phenomenon.
Do you represent any Olympians at all, or?
No, we've represented athletes in the past, but no, we don't represent. But there's, having said that, but we work with a lot of sponsors and teams and leagues and stuff, and there's a lot of companies that's what they do. They do represent athletes and Olympians, and it's very hard. It's what happens is they tend to migrate to the hockey players and the
Because
baseball
you see them, they're constantly there, right? They're constantly.
Well, that's what it is.
forefront,
It's every
yeah.
year, and but it's the sad thing about it is the rich get richer. So the people who need it the least.
Yes, are swimming in money, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right,
and so
that's
these
right.
poor
Michael
athletes.
Phelps doesn't need endorsements, but yet he's the only one. He's whose people are calling.
Well, there's another one too. Actually, Cary Kaplan is president of Cosmos Sports, which is a sports marketing company in Mississauga. He's on the line on the Mots.ca. Gabby Douglas, there's another name, the American gymnast. She has already signed with Procter and Gamble and Kellogg's, and the fact that she's an African American, Procter and Gamble loves that too because it's all their beauty products as well. And I think she's one of the first gymnasts to be in that category.
But you also have to keep in mind gymnastics and some of these other sports that are, played in the Olympics are bigger sports in the States than they are here.
That's part of it too. The other thing, and I know the Canadians sort of don't want to hear this. I mean, there's the expression now is bronze is the new gold.
Yeah, well, it's not.
Not true.
It's
Canada
not
got
true.
one gold medal, and that's why you're talking about Rosie, and that's a great. Even though it's a very obscure sport, bronze isn't gold.
No, it's
when you
not.
talk about the athletes that won multiple golds, if it's Jessica Ennis for the UK or some of they've got a fighting chance. And that was Donovan Bailey way back, won a gold medal in track and field. And people sort of, the argument would be, well, it's Americans. It's not true. Usain Bolt's Jamaican.
Right.
He has, wouldn't matter what country he's from. He would get many millions of dollars because he won the 100-meter, 200-meter, and he's charismatic. He does, his origin, if he was Canadian, he'd get $20 million in endorsements.
Would he
it's
really?
not a Canadian issue as much as it's Canada won one gold medal. We were from a gold medal standpoint, it was a terrible game. From a lot of other things, it was great.
Yeah.
But from actually winning, compared to population, terrible.
So what do you think Rosie McLennan, gold in trampoline, can actually get? If you were projecting, what do you think she might make in endorsements in a year?
I think if she gets, I think the first thing she has to do is get a company that, and I said we'd be happy to do it, but it's not there's companies that's all they do, and it's to work with somebody who really knows the people at these companies. So that's the first step. And then, I hope $100,000 maybe. I think and I think that might be possible because I think her story, I think it helps her that there was one gold, and she won it. I think that, when there was 14 in Vancouver, it's harder to differentiate yourself.
And of course, who would she speak on behalf of? Sleep Country? Like a mattress?
That's right. Well, you could, but
Boing.
That's a great idea.
But you say that sort of joking, but that's the type of fits you want to find.
Right.
It is somebody who's Sleep Country, or that'd be great.
It would be perfect because that's a great idea, Paul.
I do have them every now and
Yes,
again.
you do.
I'll be so surprised.
You guys should call Rosie and represent this Sleep Country.
Hey, marketing's my second name.
But listen,
you
okay,
go.
so if she would make $100,000 in this country, what would she make if she were in the States, do you think?
100,000.
Oh, really?
50,000.
That's
yeah.
it.
I think that's that because again, in this hard. There's 80 or whatever. There's however many dozens of gold medalists in the States. Now, it's not. I'm saying it's much less country specific than people think. A bronze medalist in the States, of which Canada has lots, is going to have a very hard time getting any endorsements. So
Yeah, and you got to take a look at her sport too. It's trampoline.
Well,
Right.
stop. Don't
No,
do that.
I'm
We have this
sorry.
argument all the time because he really denigrates trampoline.
No.
It's not right. Don't do that.
I think I think Rosie's probably number 2 besides Christine. I think what happens is certain athletes transcend. That's I think the soccer team transcended a bit. But imagine if the problem too with if you're in a team sport, if a company did come in and said we're going to give $100,000 or $200,000 to the soccer team. Well, now you have to divide that by 15 people. It doesn't result in a lot of money there. So
I think, though, this is what I think. I think if you have character, if you are somebody like a Usain Bolt or somebody that he's got such charisma and he's really a fascinating study if you want to look at him like that. But if you can be somewhat like that, but your own person and if you have charisma and something else, as well as being an athlete that won a gold medal, I think that you can turn that into something more.
You can, but the sport, you can turn it into a bit, but the sport and like I said, if anybody from Canada won the 100 meters, 200 meters, and 4x100, they would get $20 million in endorsements. It's not, or $10 million, and then Usain Bolt's character doubles that because of his charisma. So I agree, but Canada didn't win any major. There wasn't a kayaker who won a gold medal. There wasn't it's not the same being. It's hard. It makes it harder to be. As opposed we're not even talking about people that came fourth. I mean, if you came fourth or fifth, it's a shame. That's that out of thousands and thousands of athletes, very few will get endorsements, whereas a lot easier for hockey players or basketball players.
So when you see the tear running down their cheek as they're standing there on the bronze podium, the reason they're crying is that they didn't get gold.
Well, I hope I hope not. I think what's great is for their whole life they're Olympians.
That's
and
right.
They did it because they loved it,
Yeah.
and if they stick with that. I did it because and a lot of them do. A lot of I was listening to an Adam Van Couverden or something. He's a true athlete. He loves what he does. He's not focused on the money. It's a passion. Now, I mean that's hard when you're. It's nice if it came with, but a lot of these athletes are not marketers. They're athletes first.
Yes.
But the sad reality is that's a lot of them. That's what it is. You're an Olympian, and it's amazing, but
that's why they need
doesn't
you.
come with money.
Well, yeah, and the other reality is, outside of hockey in this country, we really don't care much about other sports, period, in any great number.
Yeah, I would agree, although I'd still say you could have. Think of Michael Phelps. If Canada had a swimmer that won 8 gold medals, he or she would be a multimillionaire. Like, Canada doesn't have athletes that... So, yes, you're right, but we also don't have any athlete that's dominant in the world. None. Canada didn't win the gold medal in any of those. There's nobody dominant and won gold medal. So it's part of the sport, but I think Canadians will... It doesn't happen very often, but I think if we get somebody in a lot of different situations who's the best in the world or up there, and that would help. And again, the example, you have to go back 20 years, but the track and field team in the 80s, Donovan Bailey's and Bruni Surens and Ben Johnson before them, they got massive endorsements at one point.
They did.
And of course, pumping more money into the program wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah, and even, by the way, there was Alex Bauman and Victor Davis, and there were people that won gold medals. Those names are more recognizable from 20 years ago. Mark Tewksbury and some of those guys.
Right.
They got some endorsements, but I think no one wants to say that because it's very, very cruel, sort of, to say, well, you were 3rd place or you were 4th place, or what. But
aren't you a nice guy?
That's right. But you know who says that? Unfortunately, that's what corporate sponsors do.
Yeah.
We want our company associated with a bronze medalist or a gold medalist. It's different. And,
No, I hear you.
I think Christine's going to... I think there will be one exception. You said at the beginning. I know she's already got calls about endorsements. She was quoted as saying, I've got deals and I'm disappointed that my teammates don't, which is nice of her to say, but I think she will get somewhere, she might get $500,000 in endorsements. But, that's... and part of it is charisma, right? She transcended a lot, but people didn't know who she was 2 weeks ago. She was already the best Canadian women's soccer player ever. And the Olympics and the bronze medal put her on the map.
That's for sure.
She's like our Sidney Crosby of women's soccer.
Oh, but she's tougher, actually, because she took on the ref. She got out there and said what she thought. This is a woman who you will see as an analyst and so on once she finishes what she's doing. So, it's great. Cary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Great talking to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's Cary Kaplan, who's president of Cosmos Sports.